Welcome to Newslaundry Chota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. Newslaundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a Newslaundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of Hafta from a very wet Delhi with everything flooding. And this time it's not just our office and the bastis of Delhi that are flooded, but golf links homes, bungalows that cost upward of 100 crores have also got flooded.
This is all patch, is all
This is all water,
wet
yes.
water.
You thought this is a new design on
I
a
thought
carpet?
it's shadow, like a dumbass. I thought
Okay.
I was like, ये shadow का
She's
क्या है?
referring to a carpet which is half dark blue and half light blue, and she was thinking the half dark blue. That's the water that comes in. So hopefully
God,
we shall
we're sitting on a
also
very damp carpet.
make enough money to make our office waterproof. But until then, this is a small price to pay. So before we get into the headlines, let me introduce the panel to you today. Joining us on the phone line from Bombay is Govindraj Ethiraj. Hi, Govind.
Hi, Abhinandan. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for being here. Most of our listeners would know who you are, but for those who don't, Govind is a television and print journalist. He has been reporting and writing on Indian business and economy for over 25 years. He's also the founder of IndiaSpend, fact checker, and Boom. I'm sure you've checked out both. He was the founder, editor-in-chief of Bloomberg TV when it was launched. I'm sure you guys remember that. And he was with the Business Standard newspaper. He has been with CNBC Television 18 as well. Those of you who remember watching it back in the day would remember Govindraj often anchoring. And he's been in the Economic Times and other leading business magazines. He is a fellow of the inaugural class of Anand, Aspen's India Leadership Initiative. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And the Aspen Global Leadership Network. What does that mean? You go to skiing to Aspen?
No, we always go there in summer when there is no skiing.
Oh, damn. Okay. So how can I become one of these things? I also then come to Aspen with you guys.
Yes, of course.
So what do I have to do?
Pleasure and a privilege. And maybe you can buy my ticket as well.
Oh, you have to pay for your own ticket?
Off late, yes.
Oh, damn. I don't want to be a member. So tum hi jao. Also joining us on the phone line from Patna, his hometown, is wonderful Anand Vardhan. Hi, Anand.
Hello.
How's the rain there? Any flooding?
No, not in the city, but flooding is in the northern part of Bihar. Yes.
Actually, this time is the first year that I can recall where the flooding of the Kosi River, right? We used to discuss that every hafta, man. It used.
This year also there has been flooding, wide scale flooding. So
How come it hasn't made headlines? We've always discussed it in hafta, and it's always been like a major headline because there's intense flooding. I guess Taliban beat you guys to it with the headlines.
Yeah.
Assam also there's been
Yeah,
there's
this time-
been 1 or 2 deaths, I think, and some 5 lakh people displaced. So it's been
But
bad
this
there
time,
also.
I think, are we
It
back to
hasn't
tyranny
made-
of distance?
Actually, no. I think flooding now makes more news when it's a place which doesn't usually have floods. Like Chennai, when it happened, everyone was
So it's
talking about
become
it.
normal.
Kerala, when it happened, everyone was talking about it. I think Assam, Bihar, always it's kind of, unless until it's super drastic, no one.
but
but I
last-
remember last year it was quite bad.
It was quite bad.
I remember,
and we
or maybe it's as bad this year. In
No, we
just
discussed
the
it on
news,
Hafta
yeah.
also, and I remember Anand telling us about how it's this annual event. And so, before we get into the headlines, any speculation of why neither is the Bihar floods made headlines this year and nor
Well,
have
last
Assam?
15 days only Afghanistan has made headlines, so that could be one reason.
Before I go to Anand for the last word, you want to speculate on why it has made headlines this time, Govind?
I think I'd go with Manisha's. Manisha's view that maybe Afghanistan is leading, and maybe these things don't make headlines even in non-war-like times.
No, I know they do. But Anand, your view, because I know we've discussed it on Hafta, and there was much celebration and patting each other in the back last year that Assam floods had got major attention because usually the Northeast is ignored. But I think we're back to square one. Anand, what is your view?
Yes, I think the news priorities this year, this time of the year has been different. There has been a triaging of emergencies, and Perhaps that I think but the regional press has covered it. The local press, of course, is replete with the stories, flood stories.
There haven't been any major loss of life, though, right?
No,
People affected, displaced. Has there been a major
there
loss?
has been loss of lives, and more than lives, the loss of cattle is
Displacement.
important. In both losses are important. I mean, but cattle suffer more in floods, and they being the primary economic resource for the agricultural swaths, large swaths of land, as well as the farm economy and the dairy economy. So I think cattle loss is underreported but very important.
Right. So before we get into two things we'll discuss, let's just get the headlines from Manisha.
Yeah. For the first time in history of the Supreme Court, 9 new judges, including 3 women, have been appointed to the top court. They've taken the oath of office. The historical bit is the women, the 3 women who've been appointed. 10 injured as police lathicharge farmers heading towards Karnal to protest against BJP meet. Highways blocked. The patriarch of separatist politics in the valley and hardline Hurriyat hawk, Saeed Ali Shah Gilani, passed away last evening. I think his funeral rites have already been finished, and there's been a complete blockade of internet in the valley. So there's not much news coming out of how that went. Meanwhile, today there was another news of death of journalist and former Rajya Sabha member Chandan Mitra. He was 66. At the Tokyo Paralympics, India won 5 medals in a single day, improving their best ever count in the space of few hours. We've got 2 golds, 2 silver and 1 bronze. The government has defended the new IT rules, and they've said that it empowers the audience. In a bid to weed out fake journalists, the Tamil Nadu government should constitute within 3 months a press council. That's what the Madras High Court has ruled. Narendra Modi, PMG, has inaugurated the revamped Jallianwala Bagh Memorial. Lots of controversy around it. People have called it ugly and bad and lacking in taste. And a small group of king of the Jallianwala Bagh victims have organized a symbolic protest against the memorial's complex renovation. Meanwhile, Amrinder said he just thinks it's fine.
Yeah,
It's
he
no
says,
big
I don't see
deal."
much wrong with it.
Prices of the non-subsidized LPG cylinders have been raised by rupees 25 by India's key oil marketing companies. India's GDP rose to 20.1% in the 3-month period, compared with a record contraction of 24.4% in the same quarter a year earlier. You could perhaps talk about that.
And Rahul Gandhi has said that when the Prime Minister says GDP badhega, he means gas, diesel, petrol.
And BJP was celebrating ki wow, 20% बढ़ गया. 55% of sanctioned OBC posts in central universities are lying vacant, so the government says. At least 50 people, mostly children, have died of the fever, and several hundreds have been admitted to hospital in 6 districts in eastern part of Uttar Pradesh. Most probably this is a dengue outbreak. You can read Ayush's ground report from there, from Firozabad, which is one of the worst affected areas. About 30 children have died in a week, so it's pretty grim.
Yeah, it was quite an alarming, actually, statistic, and it was getting very little coverage. So actually Manisha had sent Ayush there, since Raman sir is on leave. So do read his report. It was, a very detailed ground report.
The West Bengal government moved the Supreme Court, challenging the Calcutta High Court's order for a CBI probe into serious crime during alleged post-poll violence in the state.
So now basically West Bengal government versus center, and like predicted, it is going to be state versus center in more than one place.
Meanwhile, the Enforcement Directorate has named 3 Trinamool Congress leaders, Firhad Hakim, Madan Mitra, Subrata Mukherjee, and a former member of the party, Shovan Chatterjee, in a charge sheet in the Narda bribery case.
Right.
Indian envoy met with Taliban representative in Doha after complete US troops withdrawal. This is one of the first publicly announced meetings, so it's kind of important. India administers a record 1.28 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses in a day. I think I was one of them the day we reached.
Your
so
claim
thanks
to fame.
me.
Thanks to you.
Like Chetan Bhagat, I can also claim to. Poor guy, I think he got a lot of flack just for replugging a piece. The number of children hospitalized with COVID-19 in the United States hit a record high of just over 1,900 on Saturday, caused by the highly transmissible Delta variant. They're in their 4th wave.
Yeah, they're referring to it as the 4th wave.
Yeah.
And India's not even seen the 3rd. So, well, good on us.
A suicide bomb went off on Thursday when we recorded our last Hafta, at a busy gathering area outside the international airport in Kabul in Afghanistan. The ISK has taken
which is
responsibility for
and
it.
it's the Pakistani
Taken-
offshoot of
yeah.
the ISIS.
ISI, Khorasan.
And it is the largest loss of troops for America during this entire war in one shot.
Pakistani terrorists coming to Afghanistan. That's what Ghani told Biden on July 23rd. And other than that, there was a viral video of an SDM who said, "Sir, phod do sabka."
This
Which
is
went-
and he's now been transferred
he's
meanwhile.
transferred. And the DM said, "वो दिल के बुरे नहीं है." ऐसे बोल दिया उन्होंने थोड़ा.
Which may be true. We'll talk a little bit about that, about bureaucrats. But also, interestingly, just this morning, I think, and we are recording this on Thursday, the 2nd of September at 3:20 in the afternoon, Naseeruddin Shah uploaded a video saying that it is rather disgraceful that many Indian Muslims are celebrating Taliban's victory in Afghanistan.
अफगानिस्तान में तालिबान का दोबारा हुकूमत पा लेना दुनिया भर के लिए फिक्र का बायस है. इससे कम खतरनाक नहीं है हिंदुस्तानी मुसलमानों के कुछ तबकों का उन वहशियों की वापसी पर जश्न मनाना. आज हर हिंदुस्तानी मुसलमान को अपने आप से ये सवाल पूछना चाहिए कि उसे अपने मजहब में इस्लाह, रिफॉर्म और जिद्दत पसंदी, मॉडर्निटी चाहिए या पिछली सदियों के वहशीपन का इक़दार, वैल्यूज. मैं हिंदुस्तानी मुसलमान हूं और जैसा कि मिर्जा गालिब एक अरसा पहले फरमा गए हैं, मेरा रिश्ता अल्लाह मियां से बेहद बेतकल्लुफ है. मुझे सियासी मजहब की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. हिंदुस्तानी इस्लाम हमेशा दुनिया भर के इस्लाम से मुख्तलिफ रहा है और खुदा वो वक्त न लाए कि वो इतना बदल जाए कि हम उसे पहचान भी न सकें.
That was part of his video that he uploaded, and he is in the middle of controversy.
As
Some
always,
channels are
whenever
picking
he
it up.
says something, he's always in the middle of controversy.
I know anecdotal is anecdotal, but I have, we set up small screen in 99, 2000 when I was 24. And since, slowly we've grown, then small screen, Newslaundry was born. And you've always had people, your neighborhood, household help wants their son wants a job, someone wants a job because there's just no jobs. I have never had so many people asking for jobs like I have in the last 4 months, 3 months. It is insane. And these are people who were earlier employed. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Someone who works for me at home, his son was at a BSNL office, but BSNL office apparently have been shut, I guess, because BSNL is winding up or whatever. So all the peons have been fired. They want a job. I had another friend, he works in a garment factory in Okhla here. Factory shut down, they need a job. Right now, people who I know directly, their direct family members, I know at least 8 who need jobs. This is what the situation is on the ground. And this disconnect between Main Street and Wall Street became a huge issue in the late 2000s. Govindraj, as you remember, when Occupy Wall Street happened. And then there was this entire narrative that we got to pay attention to Main Street. In fact, Obama also had this Main Street slogan. I forget what he used to say, that, we got to focus on Main Street and not Wall Street. Is India there right now? I mean, how can your Main Street be doing so badly and Wall Street be doing so well?
I think the answer is somewhat similar to the previous one, Abhinandan, that basically, there is a supply of money in the stock markets coming from mostly retail investors, and companies are doing well. So, company performance and in a way, job creation.
No, when you say companies are doing well, then they should be hiring, right? Why are there so many companies shutting down, laying off if companies are doing well?
So I think it gets a little more granular. So when you talk about the stock market specifically, there are companies listed in the stock markets, like large companies, which have done well and continue to grow in output and maybe revenue. That doesn't mean they're hiring, because the nature of, largely we are seeing what they call jobless growth. I mean, there is obviously some job creation, but there's also a lot of churn, people moving from, across industries and skill levels and so on. So we are not seeing that kind of new fresh investment or new industries and new jobs being created. I interviewed Mahesh Vyas of CMI just last 2 weeks ago.
What is CMI?
Center for Monitoring Indian Economy.
Okay.
And the point that he made was that basically people are moving from factory to farm. All these years, it's mostly been farm to factory. This is, I don't know if it's exactly the first time, but it's definitely, it's one of the rare occasions where people are going back from manufacturing to farms, because manufacturing jobs are drying up and have dried up, and that's what you're seeing, or jobs in cities are drying up for various reasons. And the data clearly shows that the employment in agriculture has risen from, I think it was 42.5% in 2018-19. It was 45.6% in 1920. I mean, the number may be small, but it's a trend reversal. Every country that progresses usually industrializes, and the number of people employed or are dependent on the farm sector reduce. In the developed countries, the number of people who actually work in farm sector are very small, because of mechanization and so on. So anyway, so that's what's really happening, and that's the outcome of that is what you're also seeing, which is that people are losing jobs, lost jobs. See, while the big companies may have done well, a lot of mid-sized companies have taken huge knocks, have downsized. I mean, if you look at any industry which has works on contact, like in hospitality, you can just walk around Delhi and you'll see the number of establishments that have shut down or downsized.
Big time hotels. Not look at our industry. Before you and I went back to news, Govind, both of us in the middle, set up. You set up an MC and I set up a production house, and we were making television programming and ads and digital programming. The hit that industry has seen has been enormous, and there must be hundreds of such production houses like ours. The two Sena projects are, one is, like I said, about the Maharashtra floods. We'll have a series of reports around that, how it impacts people on the ground, what are the recurring causes, and why can't we fix, if not the flood, at least the kind of aid that is provided to those who are hit by it. And we have one of our most popular creations of Newslaundry. When we had just started about 9 years ago, we had launched Kashmir Ki Kahani, which is a graphic novel, which I call a comic, but these days people call them graphic novels. It is a historically accurate, witty, and good fun account of the history of Kashmir. We have updated that. So we'll be adding maybe 15 to 20 new pages, redesigning the whole thing. And this time we'll be publishing it physically. So do contribute to that, because if you contribute to that, you'll get the first few copies. You'll be one of those who'll get that copy free. And Media Rumble is back. From the 22nd to the 25th of September, we have an exciting speaker lineup as usual.
Yes.
So do sign up for the Media Rumble so that you have a position fixed, although it's not a physical event this year, again. But there's still a limited amount of people who can actually even attend the online version. So go to themediarumble.com for more details.
The second point is about aesthetics. Yet a lot of our public monuments turn into kitsy or some kind of monstrosity and don't reflect the historical spirit in which they were built or designed. And that goes true for a lot of our public buildings as well as the memorials. One I can very readily recall is the Buddha stupa just say 200 meters from Patna railway station. It's a monstrosity. It has been designed as if it is in New York. So and a lot of architecture is somehow defended with the Orientalism argument that they want to see their kind of colors or their kind of architecture in our buildings, and from there that criticism emanates. So that could be a valid argument. Maybe the architecture is influenced by some regional sense of what is grand or somber in varying degrees of seriousness. Now the light and sound. So light and sound shows can make any building look very pompous. So it is just the effect, I think, of a kind of celebratory effect that it has. So how it is received by the viewers may have some variations, but there is a kind of universal feeling of some kind of celebration or something. So that I think is an eyesore. That is a valid criticism.
I don't think sound and light shows are eyesores or necessarily only belong in a place of fun or revelry, because it's essentially a medium of storytelling. Like if young kids come to this place, you have a little show for them to explain to them what really happened. It's a very engaging medium. Maybe you don't want to keep it at the point itself, have another little dedicated space separately, to do a show. I don't see anything wrong with the sound and light show, provided it's, done with aesthetically and keeping in mind that it is a somber thing. The music, actually, now when I listen to it, doesn't seem that, I mean, it doesn't seem that bad also. Jitna outrage Twitter pe hua ki. Matlab it's just like, it's like dhede thing, whatever. It's very thoda Bollywood hai, but, on the aesthetics bit, I agree with Anand. I haven't been to Amritsar, but I have very close friends who are Sikhs and they go there pretty often. And they were telling me that there was a renovation done to the path leading to the Golden Temple also, which has been similarly renovated in a very tacky way. Again, not keeping in mind the aesthetics of the temple, what it was originally, or local aesthetics. It's made like a European cobbled street with like those lampposts. So it's just out of nowhere, for no reason, is suddenly Amritsar looking like Europe. So, and I think that is a problem with all public places in India. It's not just a problem of Jallianwala Bagh, but we just don't adhere to the local aesthetics. Even when you go to the hills.
What is the local aesthetic? What's the local aesthetic of Delhi? Baroque, Punjabi
No,
Baroque?
no.
There
There's
was
no
a book
Delhi
written.
local aesthetic, but see, like, suppose the old fort, if you were to renovate it, you're not going to suddenly have it look like, it's in New York or it's in Europe. You will retain the art or the stone. One of the way of retaining aesthetics is to reuse the same material. So, for example, if you go to France or whatever, if you have a village which has a certain style of housing, all facades have to be like that. You can't change the facade.
Yeah, I followed it. My 2 bit before I say goodbye. I think there are three things. I mean, we have to remember that we just finished 75 years of independence. Most of our monuments are now, let's say, between the big older monuments are maybe 200 to 300 or 400 years old. And maybe this is also time to, start creating some sort of approach as to how we're going to keep them going and what is the version of history that we want to leave for our children. And that really brings me to the point about, there's preservation, there's restoration, and there's renovation. What we need to ensure is that we preserve history. Now, preserving doesn't mean leaving things alone either. And, the Sabarmati ashram is also in the midst of a controversy right now because there is some proposal which, I've not studied it carefully, but it seems to suggest that many complexes within that 100-acre ashram will be brought down and something else will be built and all of that.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, there's maybe nothing wrong in that as long as you leave the core part that where Gandhi actually lived and and he held his meetings and everything intact. Now, equally, leaving it intact. I haven't been to Jallianwala, but I've been to Sabarmati Ashram many times. Leaving it intact doesn't mean ignoring it, right? Because and you have to preserve it. And preservation, obviously, and we have enough talent in the country as we're doing it elsewhere too, is a different art and a science. So how do you preserve something in a way that it retains its original natural look and remains attractive and so on? I think is a big question. Not as we go forward for many more monuments and many more places of public interest. Aesthetics is a very, very divided subject. What you feel is European, whatever I may feel is local. And you said Baroque Punjabi, I think. But that may be really what it should be today because, we want to, that's what we want to reflect as a country. If we are a democracy and we represent the larger will of the people, maybe if the larger will wants that something should look different, maybe it should. I don't know, but maybe it should. So, but I think there is no doubt that we should preserve history because if you change it, then it's not history anymore, or you're trying to do something else with it. But you surely can build around it, and you can create another complex where, let's say, you have a modern Gandhi memorial, which maybe they will do, and say that okay, here is to use that same term again, sound and light show about his life, or several sound and light shows about his different phases of life. The Dandi March, or his many heroic fasts that he held in different parts of the country, or his train journeys. So, and all of that is interesting, and it has to be told in a visually exciting and audibly interesting way. And that's where sound and light comes in and can play an important role and should play. And when we do have sound and light shows in many historical places in the country today, and I think they do quite well. So I think, but as a larger point, if separate preservation from restoration, separate restoration from renovation, don't confuse the three and don't mix the three, and make sure that we, in an ideal world, of course, that our children see the version of history that's the original version or the way it really happened, and not some overwritten version. I think that's really all I can say.
All of you listening in, the Chota Hafta, do subscribe so you can listen to the entire Hafta. We will see you again next week with the Hafta. Till then, subscribe, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Thank you. Goodbye.
All the Newslaundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to Newslaundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sun liya Afrika, mufat khoro. Not to brag or anything, but Newslaundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free. All Newslaundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.